My mom didn't forget my graduation. She looked me in the eyes the night before and said, "Don't make this about you." Then she chose my brother's grand opening over my doctorate, on purpose. My dad laughed and said, "A title doesn't change who you are." So I changed my name. I moved across the country. And the next time they saw my name, it wasn't on a family group chat. It was on a building. My name is Harper Lane. I'm 29 years old, and I'm the first doctor in my entire family. I used to believe that once someone announced, "Dr. Harper," into a microphone, my parents would finally look at me like I mattered. I thought a cap, a gown, and 9 years of grinding would make me impossible to ignore. I was wrong. And what I did after that wasn't a tantrum. It was a clean-cut, paperwork, attorneys, and one decision that turned my family into villains of a story they swear I made up. Before I tell you what happened the morning of my graduation and why changing my name detonated my family's reputation, tell me, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Because I want to know how far a story about choosing yourself can travel. I grew up in Clearwater, Ohio, in a house where my brother, Dylan, was treated like a headline, and I was treated like a footnote. Dylan was the golden child. Not because he was kinder. Not because he worked harder. But because he was loud, charming, and constantly going through something that required everyone's attention. He played sports, started businesses that never lasted, made big announcements, and collected praise like it was his paycheck. Meanwhile, I did the quiet things. I stayed out of trouble. I got straight A's. I won scholarships. I worked night shifts during undergrad and studied in my car when the house was too chaotic. And my parents, Marlene and Rick, always had the same response when I achieved something nice. Good job. Don't let it go to your head. When Dylan achieved something, the whole family threw confetti. I told myself it would change one day. That eventually, they would see me. So I worked harder. Medical school didn't just test my brain. It tested my identity. There were nights I cried in the hospital stairwell because I was so exhausted I couldn't remember the last time I ate something real. There were mornings I walked into rounds with a smile while my hands shook from lack of sleep. But I kept going. Because in my head, there was a finish line where my parents would finally stand up and clap like they were proud. That fantasy carried me through everything. Graduation week, I reminded my parents obsessively. I sent the date. The time. The parking map. The seat section. I even bought them 2 proud parents of a doctor pins as a joke, something cute for pictures. My mom replied with heart emojis. My dad said, "We'll be there." The night before graduation, my phone buzzed. Mom. I answered with a grin, already imagining her crying in the front row. "Hey," I said. "Are you guys excited?" Her voice was too light. Too quick. "Sweetheart, listen. Tomorrow is complicated." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" She sighed like I was being difficult for existing. "Dylan's doing the ribbon cutting for his gym tomorrow afternoon. The mayor is coming. Sponsors. Clients. It's a big deal." I blinked. "My graduation is tomorrow morning." "I know," she said, like that wasn't the whole point. "But the ribbon cutting is important." My heart started beating hard in my throat. "You can do both." "We could," she said, "but we don't want to rush. Your father hates driving back and forth." I sat up in bed so fast the blanket slid off my legs. "You're telling me you're not coming to my doctorate graduation because you don't want to rush?" My mom's tone sharpened. "Harper, don't start. You know how much Dylan needs support right now." Support. Like I hadn't needed it for 9 years. I swallowed. "Mom, I'm graduating as a doctor. This is the biggest day of my life." There was a pause. Then she said the sentence that cracked something in me, "Don't make this about you." I went cold. A second later, my dad got on the line. "Harper," he said, calm and dismissive, like he was talking to a child. It's just a ceremony. You already did the work. I tried to breathe. You're choosing a ribbon cutting over my graduation. He chuckled. Actually chuckled. A title doesn't change who you are, he said. Stop acting like you're above everyone now. Above everyone? I didn't want to be above anyone. I just wanted to be seen. My mom rushed in, sugarcoating the knife. We'll do dinner next week. We'll take photos with your diploma. We'll post them. Same thing. Same thing. As if a staged photo after the fact could replace the moment I'd been imagining for a decade. My voice came out quiet, flat. Okay, I said. Have fun. I ended the call before my tears turned into pleading. Because I realized something: if I begged, they'd call me dramatic. If I stayed silent, they'd call me cold. Either way, I would lose. So I chose something else. I chose myself. 3. The loneliest walk of my life. Graduation morning, I drove to campus alone. I parked between minivans decorated with balloons and a "We're so proud" as signs. Families poured out like joy was normal. Inside the auditorium, the noise was a wall: cheers, laughter, parents yelling their kid's name. I found my seat in the doctoral section. 2 chairs beside mine had little reserved tags. My parents' seats. I stared at those tags longer than I want to admit, like if I stared hard enough, reality would blink. When the dean told us to stand and wave to our families, the room exploded with waving arms and phone flashes. I turned with everyone else. And saw strangers. Not one face that belonged to me. My hand lifted halfway, then dropped. No one noticed. Of course they didn't. Halfway through, my phone buzzed. A text from Dylan. A photo of a giant banner: Dylan Lane Fitness, grand opening. My parents were in the background smiling like they'd been waiting their whole lives for that moment. Caption: wish you were here. The timestamp on the photo was the exact minute my row was lining up to walk. That's when the truth landed in my stomach like a stone. They didn't forget. They chose. When my name was called, Dr. Harper Lane, I walked across the stage with a smile that felt like it belonged to someone else. I shook hands. Took the diploma. Posed for the camera. The audience clapped politely. No screaming. No tears. No sign. No pride. After the ceremony, people ran into their parents' arms like survival was something shared. I stood near a fountain pretending to scroll my phone so I wouldn't look as alone as I felt. A woman, someone's mom, walked past, then stopped and turned back. Do you want me to take your picture, honey? She asked gently. I swallowed hard. It's just me, I said. Her face shifted, like she suddenly hated my family on my behalf. Then their loss, she said, and she took the photo anyway. That picture, me alone in my cap and gown, was the only proof that my biggest day happened. That night, I posted the photo with one simple caption: I became a doctor today. My parents chose my brother's grand opening instead. Comments poured in. Friends. Classmates. Professors. People I barely knew. But the names I searched for didn't show up. No, we're proud. No, we're sorry. No, we made a mistake. Nothing. Then my mom texted in the family group chat, why would you post that? You're making us look bad. My dad added, delete it. This is private. And I realized that was the core of everything. They weren't ashamed of what they did. They were ashamed of people finding out. My whole life, I had protected their narrative, the image of being a good family, even when I was drowning in their neglect. That night, something in me snapped cleanly. I replied, it's only humiliating if it's true. Then I turned my phone off. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table in silence, staring at my diploma like it belonged to someone who didn't exist. I opened my laptop and typed, legal name change process. At first it felt extreme. Then it felt inevitable. Because I didn't just want distance. I wanted a line in the sand. I wanted a life where my achievements couldn't be claimed by people who couldn't be bothered to show up. I didn't want them saying, "That's our daughter," at parties, collecting pride they didn't earn. So I made it official. I chose a new last name, Hale. Not because it sounded fancy. Because it sounded like a clean sky. A life without storms I didn't cause. I filed the paperwork. Paid the fee. Signed my name like I was signing out of a system that had never loved me fairly. Harper Hale. It felt strange for 1 second. Then it felt like breathing. A month later, my hospital credentialing updated. So did my email. My medical license. My clinic badge. And because the medical world is small, word traveled. A local newspaper did a short piece about young physicians starting out in underserved communities. They included my photo. Under it, in bold letters, Dr. Harper Hale. My dad saw it first. He called, voice sharp. "What is this? Why did you change your name?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't want you using it anymore. My mom started crying, not in the way that says, "I'm sorry." In the way that says, "How could you do this to me?" My brother texted, "You're trying to embarrass us." And I almost laughed, because there it was again, everything was about them. Not once did any of them say, "We hurt you." They said, "You made us look bad." That's when I understood, I hadn't destroyed the family. I had stopped lying for it. 6 months later, Dylan's gym struggled. Sponsors backed out. Not because of my story, because sponsors don't like drama, and my brother had plenty of his own. But to my family, it became convenient to blame me. They needed a villain. And I was done being quiet enough to fit the role. Then one day, I walked into the clinic, coffee in hand, ready for another long shift, and my receptionist looked nervous. "Dr. Hale," she said softly, "there's a couple here asking for you. They say they're your parents." My stomach turned, then settled. Not from fear. From power. I stepped into the lobby. And there they were. My mom with watery eyes. My dad with his jaw tight and his pride barely taped together. My mother lifted her hands like she wanted a hug. "Harper," she whispered. I didn't move. I pointed to the name on my badge. "It's Dr. Hale," I said. My dad's face twitched. "We just want to talk," he said, like he was doing me a favor. I looked at them both and realized something that felt like freedom. They were strangers standing in the life they refused to support. So I said the only honest thing, "Why now?" My mom's voice trembled. "We miss you." But my dad slipped and told the truth without realizing it. "People are asking questions," he muttered. "This has gotten out of hand." And there it was. Not love. Damage control. I nodded slowly. "Okay," I said. "Then here's the truth you don't get to rewrite." And I told them, calmly, exactly what that day did to me. How I sat next to 2 empty reserved seats. How I smiled through it anyway. How I realized I would never be chosen unless it benefited them. When I finished, the lobby was silent. My mom was crying. My dad looked angry, because anger was easier than accountability. My mother whispered, "Can we start over?" I looked at her, and for a moment I thought of the girl I used to be, the one who would have given anything for that sentence. Then I thought of the woman I am now. And I said, softly but clearly, "No, I didn't say it with hatred. I said it with peace." "Because you don't start over when it's convenient," I told them. "You show up when it's hard." And you didn't. Then I turned and walked back through the clinic doors. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. So let me ask you, if the people who share your blood treat your biggest day like it's optional, is staying, to keep the peace, loyalty? Or is walking away the first real act of love you give yourself?